Well, good morning to everyone who's in a time zone near Washington, and good afternoon to those joining us from Europe. I'd like to welcome everyone to this timely discussion about building ocean resilience in the face of climate change. For the next hour and a half, we'll hear from some senior government officials and experts who are at the forefront of these issues. I'm Evan Bloom. I'm a senior fellow at the Wilson Center's Polar Institute, but I was until recently at the US Department of State, where I was responsible for oceans policy, including as the US head of delegation to the current negotiations at the UN of a treaty on high seas conservation. This program is sponsored by the Wilson Center's Latin American, Environmental Change and Security, Global Europe, and Global Risk and Resilience programs, as well as the Center's Polar Institute, and it is co-sponsored by the Natural Resources Defense Council and the Mission Blue Sylvia Earle Alliance. So we'll be hearing from the Foreign Minister of Chile, other ministers, officials, and experts. I'll set the stage and then introduce Lisa Spear of Nrdc. She'll introduce our moderator, Sophie Mergot, who will introduce our speakers and lead the discussion. There is considerable attention being paid to ocean health and resilience these days, with tremendous support and energy from governments, maritime stakeholders, and NGOs worldwide. There is much effort going into understanding the ocean and the role it plays in climate policy, and focusing on science-based solutions to a variety of problems. During the last administration, the US was on the sidelines for much of this discussion, especially in the context of climate change, but that is no longer the case. John Kerry, as the US climate envoy, has made clear the current administration's view of the vital connection between ocean conservation and climate change. The US announced that it accepts the goal of 30% coverage of its domestic waters by 2030. So it appears that the US government is joining the rest of the world in recognizing the challenges related to these topics. That is particularly meaningful because this administration has embraced the notion of multilateral cooperation and engagement, which is essential for dealing with these issues. That said, the administration still needs to focus on and set its course in a number of key issues related to oceans policy. One of these involves the global 30 by 30 target. In other words, adoption of a new international target to protect and conserve at least 30% of the global ocean by 2030. As far as I'm aware, the administration hasn't taken a position on that, which will be important for international collaboration on marine protected areas. Major NGOs have asked the Biden administration to announce relevant commitments when it hosts the Leaders' Climate Summit on Earth Day, April 22nd. As it sets its policy direction on the ocean, the administration will need to consider its approach to the High Seas Treaty now before the UN, focused on biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. That treaty is crucial to questions related to the management of high seas areas, as the next speaker, Lisa Spear, knows quite well. Sustainable management of the world's fisheries is a central part of the international debate, focusing on key problems related to overfishing, subsidies of fishing fleets, and preventing illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. In that context, a new report from scientists has important implications for how we think of the relationship between fisheries management and climate change. This major new peer-reviewed study published in the journal Nature demonstrates that establishment of MPAs not only promotes ocean resilience, but can significantly help reduce carbon emissions. Of particular interest is the conclusion that eliminating or reducing bottom trawling can create considerable carbon benefits. The international efforts to limit bottom trawling have been going on for some time, and sometimes even with a bit of success. But this new report provides an additional important basis to try to limit bottom trawling and gives an added boost to the 30 by 30 campaign. Other topics of vital importance include ocean acidification and ocean pollution, and in particular, plastic pollution. We also have the suite of issues being discussed at the International Maritime Organization, including carbon emissions from ships and ship discharges. So now I'd like to introduce Lisa Spear. Lisa is the director of the International Oceans Program at Nrdc and one of the most knowledgeable people on oceans policy. She's been a leader in the NGO community on the new BBNJ treaty, and I'd like to turn the floor over to her. Lisa.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you, and welcome to everyone here, excellencies, colleagues, and friends. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. As Evan said, the climate change poses very significant threats to our ocean, as we all know. The ocean has cushioned the blow of climate change by absorbing more than 90% of the excess heat and almost a quarter of the excess CO2 that have been emitted by burning fossil fuels. And that has come at a great cost to the ocean. The ocean is now warmer than at any time since measurements began. It's more acidic than any time in the last 2 million years, and it's losing oxygen, on which all life depends. So addressing climate change and CO2 emissions in particular is of utmost importance to the ocean. But even if we stopped emitting greenhouse gases tomorrow, the ocean will continue to warm and lose oxygen as a result of the changes already baked into the system. So in addition to limiting emissions from burning fossil fuels, we also need to do what we can to shore up the resilience of the ocean so that it can continue to provide food for billions and economic and other activities for many, many people around the world. Fortunately, there are two opportunities this year to take action to bolster resilience in the ocean. The first is, as Evan referred to, the BBNJ treaty, the treaty to address the conservation and management of human activities in areas beyond national jurisdiction. This treaty is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to address what is clearly a deficient and antiquated high seas legal regime that does not provide for fully protected marine protected areas, and management outside of protected areas is exceedingly weak in the high seas. Because the high seas constitutes 2/3 of the world's ocean, it's really important to get it right. And negotiations are, we hope, entering a final stage over the next year, and strong action to include strong conservation and management provisions is essential. And the other opportunity, of course, is the 30 by 30 movement and the potential adoption at the October Conference of the Parties of the Convention on Biological Diversity in China. There has been a growing acceptance of 30 by 30. A new global target of protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030 has been embraced by more than 76 countries. From Nigeria to Japan, from Vanuatu to Finland, countries are really rallying around this new target. As the movement towards 30 by 30 gains steam, countries are starting to focus not just on the quantity of protection, but also on the quality of protection. Belgium has been at the forefront of efforts to ensure that the quality of protection is taken into account by spearheading a coalition of countries, which includes Chile and Costa Rica here, calling for fully and highly protecting 30% of our ocean by 2030. So it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Sophie Mirgo, who is Belgium's Special Envoy for the Ocean. Sophie, take it away.
Thank you, Lisa. 2020 was supposed to be the year of the ocean. A number of key opportunities to truly bolster the ocean's resilience were actually within reach. However, any voyage on the ocean is unpredictable, and it turned out that the same was true for the year 2020. So here we are, dedicating 2021 to the ocean as well. And despite the difficult circumstances we all faced, and despite the changed working conditions and flexibility that this pandemic is asking of us and has asked of us in 2020, we have all made the best of it. And we may not be working in the front line fighting the actual virus, taking care of patients, etc. But we, climate, biodiversity, and ocean negotiators, have shown unprecedented energy actually to keep conservation high on the multilateral agenda, so that our planet can be strong to face any challenges, so that we can turn back the tide on other crises. The ocean has so much to offer, from microorganisms already used in COVID tests to those yet to be discovered. It also helps us fight off, as Evan and Lisa have said, the worst of the effects of climate change. So we owe it to the ocean to help it to continue helping us, actually. It's a great honor for me to be moderating what promises to be a very interesting discussion today. During the year 2020, behind the scenes, as well as in any online conference, webinar, and call, representatives from the 3 big 30 by 30 alliances have made it the talk of the town. Actually, 30 by 30 is now part and parcel of the biodiversity discussion. And this is thanks to the efforts of those big 3, the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, whose co-chair Costa Rica is represented at this event, the Blue Leaders, to which I warmly welcome the Belgian, or for which I warmly welcome my minister, our Belgian minister, as well as the Global Ocean Alliance, to which a number of us are also partners. We also have the honor of having Chile intervene today as Climate COP presidency or president. What is key in all 3 of these alliances, and for any state defending a 30% ocean protection goal, is that we are basing our objectives on science. And we need to base our decisions and our objectives on that solid science. And hence, it is my honor to introduce our first panelist, our first speaker for today, Dr. Callum Roberts. Dr. Roberts is a professor of marine conservation in the Center for Ecology and Conservation at the University of Exeter. He is also the author of a number of books, including these, who are on my own bookshelf. And they actually helped a non-scientist like myself understand why protecting the ocean is vital for our survival. So Dr. Roberts, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Sophie, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I've got a few slides, so I'm going to share my screen on this, and we can hopefully get going. Yes. So as Sophie said, the 30 by 30 target is science-based. It replaces what was essentially a political target, 10% of the ocean protected by 2020. And at the time that 10% was set as a global goal, we were only at around 1% of the ocean protected, and anything more than 10% seemed completely unrealistic. So in the interests of gaining a broad alliance of countries, 10% was the target adopted, but the science tells us that more is necessary. And so I just want to run through a little bit of that science. Now I'm going to cover 2 things. Why is 30% protection necessary, and why is a high level of protection critically important? And this is what distinguishes this group of countries, is that they are convinced that the higher protection target in terms of the level of protection is necessary, as well as the area-based target of 30%. So the fundamental piece of science which underpins protected area establishment is that really we want to protect the full spectrum of wildlife and biodiversity that lives in the sea, and to also safeguard populations of threatened and declining species. And the piece of science that underpins that part of the equation is the species area relationship. And what this says is that as you increase the area that you're sampling of a habitat, you're going to find more species, and the rate at which you find more species declines as the area gets larger and larger, eventually going to 0, no more species found once you have sampled the entire planet. So this species area relationship is important. It underlies the efforts that we're pursuing to protect the whole of nature and to replicate that nature in different protected areas. Now, the study which was mentioned earlier by Evan, that study has looked at the biodiversity benefits of protecting more and more of the ocean, and it concluded that 90% of global priority sites for biodiversity conservation could be protected with a minimal coverage of 21% of the world in marine protected areas. But that's following global priorities. If you set priorities globally, you create a coordinated system, you can have a very efficient network of protected areas that will cover the maximum amount of biodiversity for the minimum of space. The world is not organized like that, which means that the system for finding those sites is inefficient. There are inefficiencies baked in. Countries follow their own priorities. And so in order to meet this goal of representing biodiversity across the whole planet, then we will really need to be protecting in excess of 30% or so of the ocean. The other thing about protected areas is that they are not areas of limited value to people. When people think about setting aside area as protected areas, they often mistakenly think of these as no-go zones, places where people can't go. But in fact, fisheries can benefit a great deal, extractive industry from marine protected areas. And the way that they do that is through a variety of mechanisms, but particularly when you don't fish animals, they live longer, they grow larger, and big animals produce many, many times more offspring than small animals do. And those offspring are transported on ocean currents from protected areas into surrounding fishing grounds. Protected areas are leaky across their edges. Animals move out to places where they can be caught. And of course, wildlife thrives in places where habitats are better. And so the higher the quality of habitat, the more that these effects will be expressed in the areas around protected areas. When you think about those fisheries values of marine protected areas, we know 2 points on this graph with absolute certainty. If you protect none of the ocean, there will be no benefits of protection to fisheries because there are no protected areas. If you protect 100% of the ocean, there will be no benefits to fisheries because there's no fishing going on. What we did was a study to interrogate all of the literature we could find, looking at where the sweet spot in terms of benefits was, and that median value for the right place to be protecting the ocean was about 40% coverage of marine protected areas to achieve the maximum level of fisheries benefits. Now, I said that I was going to answer 2 questions, and the second question is all about the level of protection that you give, the quality of protection inside protected areas, because that is really, really important. The thing about the quality of protection is it dictates the amount by which wildlife benefits from that protection. And so the more protected a site is, the more wildlife you'll have in it, which means the more of all of these other benefits you can be producing. So looking across the board at studies of how the level of protection influences the outcomes of protection, what you can see is that fully and highly protected marine areas are much more effective in generating this kind of buildup in fish stocks, the recovery of habitats, the export of eggs and larvae on ocean currents to other places. And a very well-known study showed that these fully and highly protected MPAs had 7 times more fish compared to unprotected sites, while lower levels of protection, lightly and minimally protected marine protected areas only doubled the biomass, and that's at best. So we can visualize this in terms of the whole ocean. So imagine this is the whole ocean just as expressed as columns of 10%. And the y-axis is how much marine life is present. Well, if you have no marine protected areas, then we have a limited amount of marine life across the board in the ocean. If you were to protect 30% of the sea in lightly or minimally protected MPAs, and that is what the great majority of MPAs that exist today are like. They don't produce the high levels that I was showing in the last slide. Then this is the kind of uplift that we will get. So we have a limited capacity to build up populations of marine life. If, however, we were to establish that 30% as fully and highly protected MPAs, then there would be a much, much greater increase in the amount of marine life that is present. And so accordingly, the whole of the ocean would have a far greater abundance of marine life than it would have if we were to protect those MPAs much less strongly. So looking at how this adds up, compared to the situation where there are no marine protected areas at all, that's the blue bar at the bottom, 30% with very limited protection will increase the amount of marine life by about 30%, it happens. And if we were to establish that 30% though as highly or fully protected MPAs, then we're going to produce a much bigger uplift in the total abundance of life across the sea. And that's really important because the more life there is in the ocean, the more resilience there is to climate-driven change. And what's more, that 30% would have more marine life in it, in addition to the rest of the ocean where marine life remains largely unchanged, than it would be if you were to protect the entire ocean with lightly or minimally protected MPAs. So in other words, we're getting much more life back by strongly protecting this 30% of the sea, and that's really important. What we mustn't ever forget sight of is all of the other sorts of uses that these protected areas produce. And one of them was mentioned at the beginning by Evan, which is the critical benefit of protecting the carbon stores of the world. That is, alongside fishing, a really, really important use of the ocean upon which an incredibly large number of people depend. And it has been played down in most discussions about how to manage the ocean. We need to lift that to the top of the policy agenda. And I think, you know, we've spent many years losing on two fronts, losing the race to protect biodiversity and reduce the number of species going extinct, losing in terms of the race to reduce the impacts of climate change. If we scale up marine protected areas to cover 30% of the sea with fully and highly protected MPAs, then we could start winning on both, in my view. Finally, all MPAs need a greater investment in management than is typically the case, because it's only with the support of people and communities and with good compliance and enforcement that those MPAs are going to deliver their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you, Dr. Roberts, for taking us on this literal deep dive to the science behind 30 by 30, and specifically on why high levels of protection are not only necessary to go beyond this 30% as just a number to get 30% of quality protection, but are also generating those, or will also generate those benefits that we want. And let's be frank, that's an argument that we need to use and we need to convince some. Next, I would like to give the floor to the ministers now in this panel. So how we will structure this is that each minister will make their statement, and then I will follow up with a question or questions. And now first, it's an honor for me to introduce Minister Andrés Alamand, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Chile. Under Chile's presidency, the first Blue Climate COP was held in December 2019. And Chile has put the ocean at the center of any climate discussion and is a leader in its own region when it comes to marine protected areas. Minister Alamand, we are looking forward to hearing your ideas.
Minister, Minister, are you on mute?
Okay, do you hear me? Okay,
Yes, it's perfect.
bueno, here I go again. Thank you everybody for being here. Really, Sophie, it's an honor for me to be participating in this important event. And of course, I want to thank at the beginning, Ivan and Liza opening remarks. And of course, Robert's presentation with all the data and all the information in terms of the link. I will go after to this point again, between the link that we have between science and oceans. So thank you very much. And let me, in this very short intervention, point out some of the main positions of Chile in all these issues. For start, of course, we strongly support this idea of the goal of 30-30. There's a lot there's a road ahead in terms of being able to meet this objective, but of course, all the efforts must be done on that direction. So Chile is going to support in all forums, in all spaces, this objective. Then, very shortly, I would want to remark or highlight our positions, the Chilean positions, in 4 different issues. The link between climate change and oceans, the link between climate change and Antarctica, that I think is a very important issue that must be considered. Then the link between climate change and MPAs, and just to end, the link between science and climate change. And I want to share with you one of a very important project we are just launched 2 or 3 weeks ago in terms of building a global climate change observatory in Chile. So then to start, I think it's important to remember that the importance of the ocean was for the first time really highlighted in Paris in the COP21. That was the first time that ocean was included in this discussion of climate change. But now what we think that is needed, and of course we made a lot of efforts in our presence of COP25 that was called the Blue COP, to keep the momentum in terms of the importance of ocean and climate change. John Kerry, 2 or 3 weeks ago, said that whenever you speak today of climate change, you are speaking about oceans. And when you speak about oceans, you must speak about climate change. So it's a very important momentum for that. What we are pushing forward from Chile and our countries with which we work at these things is to have a third because of the ocean declaration. Previously, of the adoption of the importance of the oceans in the COP of Paris, there was the first because of the ocean declaration. Then we have a second one, and then now we think we need a third one. And basically, this third because of the ocean, what must be do? I mean, what must let's say address at least 3 important topics. Number one, how we can ensure that the global stocktake to be organized in 2023 includes the ocean as a central component, and how it can inspire further action and ambition on the new round of national determined contributions to be presented by 2025. Then, how we can continue strengthening the ocean budget in the financial mechanisms that already exist under the UNFCCC, such as the Green Climate Fund and the Global Environment Facility. And third, how we can make sure that COP26 in Glasgow addresses again the ocean climate nexus and adopt new mandates to which it is important to work again. So this is important in terms of maintaining the momentum of climate change and oceans. Then some short words about Antarctica. I think Antarctica and science is in this same position. Is the most, I would say, the single most important climate modulator in the world, with an enormous impact in global temperature, in the level of the sea, in ocean currents, and the degree of the acidification of the seas. So to have a special attention on Antarctica, we think is something very important. And of course, because our geographical position, we're more than eager to work with different countries, ONGs, different organizations, in terms of study much more the link between Antarctica, the protection of Antarctica, and also climate change. Linking this idea with the MPAs, Chile and Argentina, since 2018, we are pushing forward the idea of the creation of a marine protected area in Domain 1 in Antarctica. Up to now, there's a lot of support for this initiative, but of course, there are some important countries that are against it. But I think that to highlight the importance of the creation of this marine protected area in Antarctica is something, of course, very important. And I think that it's been a winning round, the idea of linking oceans with climate change. To have a special focus on Antarctica is something that is needed. And of course, Chile is more than eager to collaborate and participate or link or make joint efforts with the community, the scientific community, with different ONGs and different countries on that. Then, specifically on MPAs, you know, I was Googling this morning, and I got to the Marine Protection Atlas. And the information over there is up to some point a challenge. What the information is available says that only 2.7 global ocean is fully protected, and 3.7 is in a way of protecting. I mean, it's not fully protected; it's mediumly protected. When Robert was very clear on the importance of having this distinction between quantity and between quality. But I think that we should consider the idea of building an alliance, a coalition, specifically in terms of supporting the creation and the management of marine protected areas in the world. Why is this very important? Because it's a very concrete idea that has an impact in biodiversity, in the care of the ocean, in fishery, in everything. So we think also that in terms of public opinion, this is something feasible. You see, for instance, public opinion in Chile is very in favor of the creation of marine protected areas. As you know, the 43% of our jurisdictional waters are under MPAs, so they are protected. And of course, with the opposition of some special and local interests like fishery and sometimes mining. But the will of the people and the support of the people in terms of this concrete initiative, I think is something very important that can be replicated all around the world. So this idea of putting in the center of the attention a concrete measure, as it is creation of MPAs, we think is something that must be enlightened and supported. And finally, the link between science and climate change and oceans. And as I previously said, we are very, what's the English word? More than happy to push forward a project that we think is going to be very important. Chile has a very, how you say, very unique position in terms of its longitudinal, we are a stripe, you see, but we're a stripe where from the border in Peru to Puerto Montt, we have 4,000 kilometers. And then close to our deep base in Antarctica, it's called Glaciar Unión, there's another 4,000 kilometers. So what we are thinking is to building and creating some sort of observatory, some sort of thermometer, global thermometer, to link 8,000 kilometers and to have a network of sensors that would be able, for instance, to be online, knowing what's happening in the Atacama Desert in the north, and at the same time in the Patagonia in the south, or in the highest mountain as Monte Aconcagua or Ojos de Salado in the middle of the country, or the deepest zone in the ocean. So this is going to be an international project. It's going to be, we are thinking in a steering committee, an international steering committee, and we're also thinking in an international board. And of course, the data, the information is going to be open access to the scientific community. So this is another way in which Chile expressed its commitment towards what it must be done in terms of climate change, oceans, and of course, also Antarctica. So count with us in all these objectives. Chile we are very, I mean, we are keen to play a role. And I think we are making our best efforts in terms of showing that even a small country as Chile can make some contributions to this global combat. So thank you, Sophie, very much.
No, thank you, and especially for coming here today with these very concrete ideas and innovative links and putting MPAs and especially the Antarctic ones at the forefront in how we can fight climate change from the ocean is very inspirational. Thank you very much for that. Just one additional question. Chile has protected around 40%, an impressive 40% of its domestic waters through fully and highly marine protected areas, and has been a strong advocate for utilizing MPAs to secure climate goals. And my question was, how can we encourage other countries to follow your example, and how can we continue to focus on building ocean resilience as a key objective of climate policy, other than the ideas that you all already put on the table, but mainly how to encourage, how to take that enthusiasm and take it to other countries?
Sophie, I would answer that question from a political point of view, and also from, let's say, some scientific scientific point of view. First of all governments, all countries need to give some sort of real example in terms of their commitment towards combating climate change. And then marine protected areas are a singular, concrete example of that commitment. Just to show to governments that the way that building marine protected areas brings together a lot of support from the public opinion is something very important. It's something that has to do with education, has to do with culture. When the people of a country feels themselves as part of an effort, then they support it very clearly. So I want to insist in this idea of that creating marine protected areas has some sort of, let's say, political rhetoric, you see? And this is something important for governments to understand. And then I think Robert's presentation was very clear. It's so clear and so important, the benefits of creating these marine protected areas in all sites, that of course, this is also a very strong argument in terms of supporting them. So has to do with the political realm in terms of showing, concrete commitment, and it also has to do with having an outcome really important for the ones that are pushing them. The problem with marine protected areas, as you know, is not only that you must go through the political and legal procedures to create them, but then the thing is the implementation, and then the hard question is how to, after the implementation, how to manage these marine protected areas. And this comes to another field important. You need to raise money for management, for the management of the areas. In Chile, we have 43% of our jurisdictional waters. So I think also this idea of implementing and supporting the management of the marine protected areas is a field where the international cooperation can come together. Eso.
Thank you. And indeed, I mean, it goes beyond just creating the marine protected areas. It goes to the actual implementation. And as you mentioned, to link it up with Callum's, with Dr. Roberts' speech on why we need to do this and how we need to translate this to the bigger audiences as well. Thank you very much for this. We have a little change in program as the Belgian Minister van Quickenborne is stuck in another meeting. So I would have to kindly ask the next or the speaker who was going to come after him, the Honorable and Inspirational Heidi Rodriguez, Deputy Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica, to come in a little bit earlier. I apologize for this. But Costa Rica's leadership as co-chair of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People is truly exemplary. And I know that even before that, you have been at the forefront of fighting the ocean fight, and in particular have been very strong on marine protected areas. So please tell us about all of this.
Thank you, Sophie. Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to represent Costa Rica here today to talk about the important role of building resilience to climate change in the ocean. Well, we all know that safeguarding the ocean against the threats posed by climate change is a key priority. And here in Costa Rica, it's one of the biggest priorities for this administration. We are part of these three coalitions joined here today, the High Ambition Coalition, the Blue Leaders, and the Global Ocean Alliance. So Costa Rica leads with France and the UK, the High Ambition Coalition, which is focused on securing protection for the entire planet, with a goal to protect 30% of the ocean and land by 2030. And by joining the Blue Leaders, we have taken our ocean commitment one step further, calling for 30% of the ocean to be protected through a network of very efficient and highly and fully protected marine areas. We have joined the Blue Leaders because we recognize it is not only the quality of protection, the quantity of protection that matters, but also the quality of this protection. And as speakers before me have highlighted, the ocean plays a key role in protecting the earth from the threats of climate change. And that's evident. And we should start talking about the climate crisis and the ocean as hope, the ocean as a key stakeholder in order to solve this crisis. So if we really want to ensure that the ocean continue to play this important role, we here in Costa Rica, as the minister in Chile was saying, we need to start by guiding from the example. And here in Costa Rica, we only have less than 3% of our marine territory under some protection. And we want to jump from that 3% to 30% for the next year. So we are going to do it by 2022. So we are not talking here only about the economic exclusive zone, but we are also talking about the very important and key coastal ecosystems as the mangroves, as key part of protecting and mitigating the effects of climate change. We understand the benefits of creating and increasing the MPAs that we have in this fully protection. But I do believe that we as decision makers have this responsibility of translating that science that Mr. Roberts explained to all the communities and make sure that we can deliver results, that we can really demonstrate that new MPAs with full protection, with sustainability, with this vision of benefits for the communities can be possible. And we need to start doing that right now, because people, they are asking for new kind of solutions for a blue economy And in this sense, creating MPAs is essential as one of these nature-based solutions. So we have been playing a key role in New York also, because we know that it's not only about the ocean, the domestic part of the ocean that we safeguard, but the whole ocean as one ocean. And if we really want to achieve this goal of the 30% protection by 2030, we need to create the policies, the international policies that actually will allow us to do that. And in that sense, we are promoting this treaty to safeguard the biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions. And we really encourage the need of talking, the need of discussing and have these meetings to advance in the discussion and construction of this BBNJ treaty. We know that it's time to connect all the dots. We cannot talk about the UNFCCC in one side and the CDB negotiations in the other side. We need to start connecting the dots. So we should talk about the biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions in the context of the UNFCCC as well, and in the context of these post-2020 framework negotiations of the CDB. And if we really want to tackle the worst impacts in climate crisis, we need a healthy ocean, securing a global network of these marine parks free from harmful activities can provide the ocean with a needed space to rebuild and regenerate. So we really look forward to working with all countries who have signed up to the 30 by 30 goal to help drive forward an ambitious ocean target at the next CDB COP to highly and fully protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. We know that it's a very ambitious goal, but we can build it together, and this is the time. And as Sophie mentioned at the beginning, I think last year was the year of the ocean and biodiversity. This year should be the year of the ocean and biodiversity, and next year, and the next year, and the next year as well. This is something that we have to keep working together, and that we need to discuss and create policy tools to implement it right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. I knew you would be inspirational as always. I just have one additional question. So Costa Rica has been leading the High Ambition Coalition and has been building support for protecting both land and sea. Costa Rica has also been instrumental in helping to advance strong conservation measures under a new High Seas Treaty. Why are the High Seas protection so important for global ocean conservation goals? While the High Seas Treaty negotiations are separate from the CBD process, how are these efforts complementary?
Well, the ocean is one. We want one productive, healthy, and resilient ocean, and we need to start talking about what is beyond our national jurisdictions in order to build that. And specifically, we are focused on ensuring that this new treaty will provide a legal mechanism to establish and manage protected areas beyond national jurisdictions, and modernize and strengthen assessment and management for human activities outside protected areas to prevent significant adverse impacts of climate change and human activities as well. Today, we lack of modern and basic management tools to comprehensively protect and manage the high seas. Yet the high seas are the home of the greatest wealth of biodiversity on our planet, and is the biggest carbon sink. So that is why we need to talk about high seas. It's not an unknown territory. It should be the answer for many of these discussions about the link between climate and ocean. We know that it's 2/3 of the ocean, and we cannot ensure this ocean's health if we do not address the weak and fragmented management of these global commons. The efforts under the CDB and the negotiations for the High Seas Treaty are complementary, in that if they are sufficiently robust, sound, they can be both significantly advanced effort to build a more resilient ocean and therefore a more resilient Earth, planet, and humanity as well. Under the CDB, countries will commit to their own biodiversity action plans, which will help drive forward policies like marine protected areas to conserve marine ecosystems, including the blue carbon ecosystems within their own waters. So I need to highlight the role of the mangroves here and how we need to start making the links between what happens in the coastal areas to what happens in the high seas. And under this High Seas Treaty, countries will agree on how to collaboratively protect biodiversity, which it's shared by all, and it's an enormous responsibility. If we are to secure the 30 by 30 globally, countries need to protect their own waters and work together. And as Dr. Roberts, yes, I'm a big fan, highlighted, the science is clear. The best way to safeguard our ocean and build its resilience is through establishing MPAs that are highly and fully protected and strengthening how we manage the ocean outside those protected areas. And here, as the government of Chile mentioned, a key point is the financing part. Probably creating the MPAs, creating the public policy, as challenging as it can be, it is the easiest part. What happens after we create these policies, after we signed the decrees for creation MPAs is vital, because as I said, we have the responsibility to demonstrate the benefits to the communities. And in order to do that, we also need to start collaborating and creating an international fund for moving in the same fast track that we are trying to move the protection in our ocean, but also to have the resources, not only the monetary resources, but also the technical resources to share among the different countries. And in that sense, I think the BBNJ Treaty will be an important tool to build capacity together. And then we'll need to have the discussion with all the countries about how we can create these financial mechanisms to ensure the healthy ocean for the future as one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think that we all in these days need to react to the circumstances we're presented with, and so I need to improvise a little bit as my minister is held up. He's also Minister for Justice and Vice Prime Minister. So the busy agenda seems to be something that all of us, but also ministers are dealing with. But I see that my good colleague and friend, Waldemar Kutz, who's Director of Marine Affairs in the Ministry of International Relations International Affairs or Foreign Affairs in Chile is there. And I know that he is always a source of inspiration. And I've listened to his words during the Monaco Blue Initiative last week. And I wouldn't mind listening to some of his wisdom yet again. Waldemar.
Thank you, Sophie, and my regards to Evan, to Lisa, to Dr. Roberts, and to Minister Rodriguez, and especially to my friend Max Bello. Happy to say a few words. First of all, to highlight Dr. Roberts' remarks regarding the role of MPAs. Obviously, they protect biodiversity. They do a beautiful job in the recovery of certain fisheries. And this is the language that we must speak to the private sector when we want to establish MPAs. But they are also a relevant tool for climate change because MPAs contribute to a healthy ocean. And when we contribute to a healthy ocean, we are also contributing to the functions that the oceans fulfill in terms of being a relevant carbon sink and a climate regulator. And the other issue that was highlighted here is the quality of the MPA that has to be highly and fully protected, and then the implementation, management, and so on. I also wanted to stress the need to strengthen efforts to achieve this target, 30% by 2030, together with the Global Ocean Alliance, the High Ambition Coalition, Blue Leaders, and ensure that this objective is adopted by the CBD soon. And the significant role that a network of MPAs is destined to play in an ambitious and strong high seas treaty. So here we have a link of the role of MPAs, not only in climate change, in CBD, biodiversity, but also in climate change as well, and in the high seas treaty in terms of the international law of the sea. So those would be my comments. So thank you very much for having me here too.
You're welcome. And I wanted to use this opportunity to praise Chile for highly and fully protecting the Easter Islands and other areas. Actually, I think that in this, in Dr. Roberts' presentation, we saw that what the difference this quality can make, and it is so important that you are doing this. So thank you for that. Next, I wanted to see if our host, Evan Bloom, wanted to make some comments on what has just been said.
Well, thank you very much, Sophie. And first, I agree with you entirely that Valdemar is always a source of wisdom. It's great to see you, Valdemar. I think we're having a very important discussion here. The MPAs are a critical part of how all governments and stakeholders are thinking about the future of ocean conservation. This is both science-based and something that is deeply involved in all of the politics of ocean management. And so I think we've reached a really key moment thinking of US policy. I think it's, as I was saying at the beginning, it's a really important time for the United States as it readjusts its approach to a whole suite of international environmental issues. And there was a certain step taken with respect to a very quick announcement about its domestic territory and waters, but there is an additional step that needs to be taken in order to support 30 by 30. And when that happens, it will have all sorts of implications for other US approaches to policy, including with respect to the BBNJ treaty. I really appreciated the minister's comments on the importance of Antarctica. A number of us have worked a great deal on trying to promote MPAs within Antarctica. We had some great success with the Ross Sea Marine Protected Area, which is the world's largest marine protected area. But there are other major proposals now before the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, CAMLR. One of those is the Domain 1 proposal from Chile and Argentina, which is strongly science-based, and many of us hope that it moves forward with a great deal of support. But that's going to take a lot of diplomatic heavy lifting, because some countries, not the US has been on board with that for a long time, but some other countries are not quite there. You know, they're going to have to link up the work being done on MPAs in Antarctica with the overall policies for BBNJ as well.
Thank you for that. Now, unfortunately, I have received a message that our minister will not be able to make it today. And so I will be reading his remarks if that is all right for some. So imagine me with a man's voice and without all the improv that I usually do, which will be a little bit different. I'll try to limit the hand gestures as well. So here we go. Dear Excellencies, dear participants, I'm honored to be here today alongside fellow ocean leaders to focus on how to bring about a common objective, building ocean resilience and tackle climate change. Belgium is convinced that we can and must achieve this goal in order to protect the planet and our children's future. It has already been scientifically proven that the ocean is the first line of defense against climate change, absorbing carbon dioxide and excess heat from anthropogenic activities. If we do not safeguard our ocean, it will no longer be able to provide these life-sustaining services. So Belgium is committed to driving an ambitious and new global ocean protection target forward at the next CBD COP, to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030 through highly and fully protected marine areas. And let me assure you, we do not believe in paper parks, and we want to match quantity with quality. As we have heard in Dr. Roberts' presentation, this level of protection is the minimum amount of protection recommended by scientists to safeguard the ocean's essential function. Fully protected means that no extractive or destructive activities are allowed, and highly protected means that only light extractive activities, such as subsistence or small-scale fishing with minimal impact, are allowed. As has been highlighted very well by scientists, this is a critical piece of the protection puzzle. We must ensure marine protected areas are granted true protection. In 2019, Belgium has organized the high-level conference on climate change and ocean preservation in Brussels. That was actually our first big outreach as a Blue leader. The Brussels Declaration, that was signed by over 40 countries and organizations, was a plea for real marine conservation, sustainable development, and the development of the ocean, and protection of the marine biodiversity and clean shipping. The Brussels conference was followed by a number of high-level events in New York and at the COP in Madrid in the days that such live gatherings were still possible. Since March 2020, the COVID crisis forced us to choose another way to convey our message. And now we are working with an online campaign, which includes video messages of Blue Leaders ministers. We have actually launched the Blue Leaders to take concrete action and to achieve two key goals.
Sophie,
the first one is,
can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Your minister is now ready.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
How you want to handle it, but
he will deliver this message so much better than me. Okay, Minister, apologies for taking your place and being impatient, and we are very happy that you can join us here. And I am honored to give you the microphone.
oh,
Sorry, Lisa, you're on mute still.
sorry, a false alarm from Arno, who now corrected. He is not available. I apologize.
Okay, so we go back and forth with this. One day he will speak, and people will be very amazed that he will come in as a surprise. But for now, I will take on the role again that I took just before, and resume with this speech, or resume this speech. So actually, the Blue Leaders have two goals, which are the establishment of a new global target of protecting at least 30% of the global ocean by 2030 through a network of highly and fully protected marine areas at the October meeting of the parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. And two, rapidly concluding a robust new United Nations treaty to conserve and protect marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. This new treaty should provide for rapid designation and implementation of fully and highly protected marine areas, and modernize and strengthen assessment and management of human activities outside protected areas to prevent significant adverse impacts. It is also clear that we need this treaty, which will set up a procedure to create marine protected areas on the high seas to reach the 30% target. With the Blue Leaders, we want to work at the level of ministers, negotiators, and the general public. When you care about something, and I mean, this is me interrupting and improvising, but it has been stressed by Minister Alemand as well, that when we care about something, you take care of it. And we hope that the social media campaign helps people rekindle and refine their love for the ocean. Quickly on how the minister would see the Blue Leaders' efforts as complementary to the Global Ocean Alliance and the High Ambition Coalition. All these efforts of the different forums, groups, alliances, and coalitions have the same objective, actually making citizens and leaders all over the world aware of the need to protect our ocean and increase its resilience. The Global Ocean Alliance also supports the 30 by 30 initiative and sets out goals for extra protection in UK's and overseas waters. And in Belgium, for example, we have already demarcated 37% of our marine waters as marine protected areas. And we are currently looking at a revision of their management goals or management objectives and their management plans. We all must do our part of the job. So today, our minister would have been very pleased to be joined by fellow Blue Leaders, Minister Alemand and Vice Minister Rodriguez. Chile and Costa Rica have been key players to help advance the 30% and calling for a network of highly and fully marine protected areas. And we also recently were able to welcome a number of new Blue Leaders, amongst who Nigeria, as well as Austria, who joined us since yesterday. And they stressed in their answer that despite being a landlocked country, they acknowledge that the ocean has an importance for all of us, even landlocked countries. As we head down the road towards the next climate change conference and the biodiversity COP, where new global protection targets will be agreed on, it is the minister's hope that the three coalitions working to advance 30 by 30 can work together on this, because it is only by working together that we can give our planet a fighting chance to overcome climate change. And so just a small addition from our side, you can actually follow our online campaign and on the Twitter and Instagram accounts at The Blue Leaders. And actually, because we are joined, or we are here still with representatives from the Blue Leaders and inspired by what Callum put forward, I was wondering, what makes us distinct as Blue Leaders is this quality aspect over only looking at the quality, and specifically on the highly and fully. And we know that in the different countries from the Blue Leaders, we are aiming at making this the standard, and we have looked at the advantages that gives. And I wanted to give the floor to Costa Rica and to Chile and their representatives to see how they feel like this criterion or this quality of highly and fully will truly make a difference as we continue on our path. So I don't know who wishes to take the floor first on this. You can do by a raise of hands if you want. Okay. Is it okay to put Heidi and come to Waldemar afterwards? Okay, Heidi, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I think that from the beginning of this administration, we've been the importance of focusing on the marine area that Costa Rica has. And we've been talking about what kind of MPA do we want to promote in Costa Rica. And here we're talking about Cocos Island, which is a very important site for biodiversity. But the connection with the community is going to be essential. So what we've been doing during this time is to actually create the the needed studies to demonstrate that having fully and highly protected MPAs around Cocos Island and from the coastal area towards Galapagos, it's important if we really want to create these benefits. We know that the studies at an international level shows that we can compare how much extra and biggest fish we are going to produce if we actually protect in a highly and fully manner our space. So again, I do believe that translating the science behind why we are talking about fully and highly, it's really important, because here is not a war against the activities that we have in the ocean. It's not a war against fishing. Actually, it's a way to increase the production, the good production in our ocean, ensuring that the ocean is going to be healthy for now and the next generation. And we are also moving in Costa Rica, and I think it's something that it's happening around the world, from fishing to ecotourism in the ocean. So what kind of activities do we want to have there? And I'm finishing with this. I do believe that having the discussion about the science, the economic aspects as well of having these fully and highly protected MPAs, it's important. Talking with the people, having participatory processes where the communities actually can understand and share their concerns and their goals for their future with fishing or tourism activities or the science and the academia in this, it's really important. So we already started the consultation process for analyzing what kind of MPA or expansion we can do around the Cocos Island waters, but it has to be based in science, hand in hand with the communities and showing the benefits. So we need to have the baseline and then working from that, so we can be talking in 10 years about all these benefits of MPAs with sound and strong numbers as well.
Thank you very much for this. Indeed, looking at the science, looking at the benefits, working with the communities, these are very important, important factors. I will now hand back to, or give the floor again, or the microphone again, to Valdemar to react to this.
Thank you. Well, I want to underscore two things. First, as I said, the role of MPAs in the High Seas Treaty, in climate change, and in the CBD. And next, as our minister just underscored, is that the next phase in this road is to promote and ensure that MPAs are highly and fully protected. As Dr. Roberts says, he's stated that this is the gold standard of MPA, so we are going for it. Thank you.
Thank you for this. This is this international, or this coalition of going towards this higher ambition is really important, and is what eventually will get us to having a true target that will mean and that will make a valuable contribution for the ocean. So thank you for this. I wanted to get back to Dr. Roberts to see if after these intervention, if you wanted to make an additional comment or to highlight anything in particular. So I will give you this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sophie. And it's music to my ears to hear all of these strong commitments to greater ocean protection. In my presentation, I showed this scenario of how highly and fully protected marine areas can contribute to greatly increasing the amount of wildlife in the sea, and that leads to benefits such as those to fisheries and to carbon sequestration and so on. One of the things that we have at the moment is many marine protected areas that are only lightly or minimally protected. And those protected areas have been very useful up to now in managing conflicting and competing human activities of the ocean space. And in fact, what we want to do really, as we move into the future, is to establish 30% protection at least as fully and highly protected, but we need to raise the level of protection and management across the rest of the ocean to the level which is produced within these lightly protected MPAs. And that way, I think we'd see much greater sustainability and an even stronger benefit in mitigating climate change and protecting the carbon stores of the sea and rebooting those carbon stores. Because one of the things that historical impacts of fishing, and in particular the use of mobile fishing gears that are dragged along the seabed, one of the things that history of fishing has done is to deplete the ability of the oceans to take up and store carbon. So by protecting those areas, we're rebuilding that capacity to take up and store carbon and promote a process that will reduce the rate of climate change and ultimately help us win the fight against it. But I think overall, we have to do much better in managing ocean space.
Thank you for this, and I love it when it actually all comes down to a simple win-win if you follow through with it. We are approaching the end of our time here, so I would like to, for the wrap up of this webinar, give the floor to Maximiliano Bello. I couldn't think of anyone better to wrap up this webinar. He's Wilson Center Global Fellow for the Latin American Program, COP26 Ocean Champion, recently nominated as a finalist for the Ocean Awards 2021, and as of today, the owner of the greatest cap or hat, or whatever you call that in English, on the planet. So Max, tell us what your takeaways are of everything that we've heard today.
Well, first of all, if there's any connectivity issues, it's because I am in Galapagos, this blue heart of the world, just been diving with schools of hammerhead sharks that roam this ocean, that goes to this beautiful country that Aide is from, the Vice Minister. And you know, it's like I'm coming with this incredible energy, but I feel even more energetic now. I see these beautiful people because there's always people behind. You know, we've been talking about how actually connect marine protected areas. It's not just all about the ocean. The ocean actually, it's the provider of life in this world, and it's the source of the life for humanity. It is about us, it is about you guys, people like you, Valdemar, Minister Alaman, Lisa, Aide, Sophie, Callum, you know, been my helper professor too, and Ivan, that has been fighting many fights too for years, and now we welcome into the Wilson Center. It's just so many people that actually have been behind this. Science has been behind this, and I think we are living through a beautiful time. Sylvia always mentioned, Sylvia Earle, my colleague and my friend, it's about the time that where we have the information that we know now for sure the effects of our impacts in the ocean, but also having the possibility to change that. I'm wearing a hat of the 30 by 30, thanks to Donna Bertarelli, another incredible ambassador and an incredible person behind these campaigns to create these massive marine protected areas. And what is the most key element of this, now we are approaching to the CBD negotiation, is the highly and fully. Is the surname of this 30 by 30. What is key now, it's how we actually make sure that this blue heart of this planet, it is highly and fully protected, because that's what really means. And how we actually get better on communicating, as Aide and Valdemar have said too, for the people that actually live from those resources too, and what extract the most as humanity is life itself. It's about the benefits of climate change that we never account them before, that now seems to be obvious and important, but always have been there. We took it for granted for many years. Those schools of hammerheads have been disappearing. We've been plummeting this species and these populations for the last 50 years for more than 90%. I'm sure you and many others are not willing to live in a world without those images. Those images that are now in my camera, in my computer, I don't want them only just there. I want my kids, I want my grandkids, I want everyone in the future to be able to see this. And so this is the fight of our humanity. This is the fight of our time. And I think there's nothing better to hear all of you with the power you have to actually make this done. So I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for these governments who have been pushing. So proud that actually Latin America, or the Americas, actually accounting also with the United States, and the incredible things that have done for Papa Hana Macuaquea and many other places. But Chile with this 43%, with Costa Rica, I know it's coming great time too. It's how we actually get there all together. Latin America, the Americas have an incredible role on this. And I think we're experiencing like all of these incredible steps, but we need everyone behind. And not just everyone behind, this is a government decision, but how do we make sure everyone have his part in this discussion of the 30 by 30? What the communities, local governments, local communities bring into that too. It's not just a decision of decision makers. It's not just at that level, but it's how we actually involve every single one. Every single one in this planet should be taking care of what gives us life. So thank you so much, Sophie, and thank you everyone for this. And big hugs from Galapagos, which also we're gonna get it more protected and highly protected and in a big expansion for sure.
Thank you, Max. And it's a good thing you're such an inspirational and awesome speaker, because otherwise I would be quite jealous at you for telling us where you are. And it's a good thing you didn't show those pictures, or it would even be worse for us stuck here on our little in our little offices. But it's good. I mean, if there's one thing that this webinar today showed, it's that we need to make everybody not understand, because they actually do, but remember what it is that we are proposing to protect, because nobody goes to the ocean or to the beach and has no feelings or has no emotional reaction to it. I don't think there's a single person who will look at the ocean and not want it to be all right and be there and be clean and be nice to look at. That is not looking at the benefits that it actually brings us, but it's more than that. The ocean, it's an emotional connection that we all have to the ocean, and I think that that's one of the things that we all. I mean, even me reading the statement of our minister, I think was able to translate that emotion, and our speakers today have definitely done that. It was very important to get the science behind that as well, so that we are moving from a political 10% to something that actually makes sense, and also have the content on how to make the number make sense and bring about a true win-win. So that was incredibly important to have science on our side in this debate. And so I think that I will, with these messages and these confirmed messages of commitment coming from the different ministers, from the countries, from the alliances, I will hand back to our hosts of the Wilson Center today. And thank you very much for your attention today, for the real conversation that we were able to have today, which allowed us to explain our message and to explain why we're doing this and why this is important. So Evan, I will hand back to you, and thank you for today's discussion.
Great, thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you for all the work you've been doing. I've had the real pleasure of working with you these past years on BBNJ, and I know your level of dedication to all of this and how hard you've been working. But this has, I think, been a very valuable panel. As you say, we all know about the importance of the ocean, and many know about the 30 by 30 campaign. But these have been some very, very good presentations and good discussion about what is going on. And as we move towards the CBD COP and possible BBNJ gathering and other key events in the diplomatic calendar, there's so much that can be done. The Our Ocean conferences that continue, and Valdemar knows that very well. We worked closely with Chile on the Our Ocean conferences. And so this is really a wonderful opportunity to get together. So just on behalf of the Wilson Center, I want to thank all of you for participating. I really appreciate it.